Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, hear a discussion on 4-inch soil temperatures and how that correlates with fall herbicide and nitrogen applications. Ben and Dylan harvested the Fort Madison, Iowa test plot. Hear what they had to say about trends they saw in the trials they tested. First Trials published their summary data for Northern Illinois. See how our Merschman Seeds PowerCore Enlist 2506 C-30 ranked.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Ben, Dylan, and Lynn. And Ben, you're going to lead a little discussion about soil temperatures?
Yeah, we can start there. So it definitely feels like fall has hit this week. Temperatures have definitely dropped. We're seeing highs in the 60s for air temp and lows getting down into the teens and seeing some frost out in a pretty big geography. So it's going to get guys antsy to start thinking about some of these things that we need to start doing once we get 50-degree soil temps and falling. So I just want to get guys to question, or I guess right now I have the Iowa Messinet pulled up that Iowa State has their GFS forecast for 4-inch depth soil temperatures for the average for the days. And what they're looking for is they're looking for 50 degrees and falling, and you really want to stay underneath that 50-degree mark for an extended period of time. If you have something in February or December where you get the spike back up and come back down, there's not a lot you can do about it because it's a timeliness thing. So, but we want to see that downward trend, and we kind of want to see it stay below, because what's happening when we're using in-serve or you're putting ammonia out there, you're trying to keep the ammonia from turning into nitrate, and once we get excess rains, we leach that nitrate out, and it's not as tied to the soil particles as we want it to be. So what does Iowa State say? So I'm just paying attention to southeast Iowa because that's where we're at right now. The actual 4-inch soil temp for Lee County is 56 degrees yesterday. I really like how they've changed this, because they have changed it to a forecasting model, because we were always looking backwards. It wasn't giving us a forward look. By the 29th of October, we were at 49 degrees, and then we kind of hang in that 48, 49 degree range till November 2nd, and then things kind of start crawling back up. So something in the GFS that's looking out real long term is saying that we're going to get another warm up, and it really spikes. You can go out as far as November 8th, and it's looking at a 62 degree soil temp, and there is nothing in the state of Iowa. If you go to the extreme northwest Iowa, you're looking at 59 degrees, and it's 62 degrees down here. So I don't think it's time to be pulling the trigger on the anhydrous. I think it's time to be lining things up, and I think we're going to see a ton of fall applied herbicides this year. It's a good way to make sure you're starting clean, and it's one less thing you got to fight. So you got to remember, with fall applied herbicides, you're kind of in the same limbo balance that you are with your anhydrous, because you want warm enough days for, if you have Roundup in the mix or anything that you want to actually kill out there, you want warm enough days to kill the weeds that you're chasing, but you also want cool enough temperatures, because you want you want the microbes to be slow enough that they're not going to start actively breaking down that chemical if you're really looking at it for an extended spring residual period. So it's a balancing act. Most of the herbicides that I'm thinking about are extremely temperature dependent on how fast the residual leaves with them, because the microbes break them down. There's very few herbicides that are photoperiod dependent, like the Prowls and the Eptams. I mean, those are very photoperiod dependent because they break down based on sunlight. So those need to be like worked in and things of that nature, but temperature has a lot to do with how much residual you have out there.
So Ben, you're predicting an Indian summer coming. That's what the old timers used to call it. After your first frost, you always get another warm spell, so don't get too excited about it going to stay cold and be cold.
That's what the GFS is telling me right now, and I'm not much of a weatherman, but we do have to work with the weathermen a little bit to try and get, trying to make the best agronomic plans that we can for the long term.
You mentioned bugs there, and it's one thing to point out when guys talk about the in-serves and the instincts and all those in products related back to that bug philosophy. On some of them, their mode of action is to make sure that the bugs that are using in the conversion of that anhydrous basically go to sleep. So when we have warm weather, those things can tend to want to wake itself back up. So why that stuff works really, really well is when we marry that soil temp with that putting the bugs to sleep per se. So if we can get that to line up and keep them, and then the extended dormancy related to the weather, because they're going to go to sleep or go into dormancy related to temperature. So when we compound that with using a product like that, we really see that efficacy go through the roof. And unfortunately, in southeast Iowa, we have been catching a large amount of our annual rainfall. This year a little bit different, but from the time the harvest is over to the time that spring planting starts. So that's another thing why we want to be really diligent, is because if we're putting it on in the fall, we want to make sure that we don't lose anything in the fall, later half of the fall, because we need everything to be there. Because in the springtime warm up, we do run into some risk of having some volatility if that has already been converted and is basically ready for the precipitation to wash it through. So that's another reason to be kind of cognizant of that soil temp as well. It not only goes with herbicides, but it's the biology factors as well that apply to that.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it's going to be the late half November, like it's been the past couple of years, where guys are working in and around Thanksgiving to get anhydrous put on, because that's the right time frame.
When Peeper Family Thanksgiving comes up, we'll let everyone know. That seems to be like the most ideal time to have anhydrous put on. Or half the family is just trying to avoid going to Thanksgiving. I don't know what.
It could be both, a little bit of both.
Well, I did see one forecast that said that we're in extended dry and we are going to potentially turn wet at some point. And it's been that way the last 2 falls, so kind of looks like we may be in that pattern again too. So everything's timing with farming. So
right, and that's the hard part, because there's a lot of tillage work and other stuff that guys like to do after the fact of their anhydrous. So you got to be on your toes and pay attention and figure out what fits your farm the best. Speaking of farming, you and I have been working on big test plot down in Fort Madison. Tell me about what you were seeing from some of the trends while you were running the combine.
Yeah, so we had 2 kind of trial sets, I guess. One with no fungicide put on, and then one with the Dastrio from FMC. So we kind of got 2 blocks of all these checks or trial points with and without fungicide. And the very first pass we made, we jumped from no fungicide to fungicide. It was 3 points wetter. It was standing a lot better. It was just more weight when we, obviously comes with the more moisture. But the number one thing I would say, the Xyway treatment that we had in there, it seemed to have the best standability out of the whole plot. It had the best, the color, even it wasn't black. It wasn't, the plant just had more leaves on it. They weren't on the ground. They weren't leaning over. So that was something that FMC has really talked about. Xyway is, it's becoming more and more popular, and we haven't put all the data together. We just got it done. It's just numbers right now, so we don't have a for sure answer on what everything did. But we had a bunch of different trials with insecticide, Meristem, Xyway. So we'll see once we compare all those for the whole trial.
Yep. And on this individual trial, we put it on with the furrow jet system from Precision. So it would have been 3/4 of an inch off the seed for seed safety reasons on the corn. Yeah, so if I remember correctly, we had a capture, we had a Nerisma, or
it's Ethos, wasn't it?
Yep, okay, yep. So we had capture, Ethos, and then they had which Ethos is a insecticide, fungicide combination, if I remember correctly. And it's an insecticide that's got a biological insecticide component to it, if I remember correctly. And then we had a nematicide from FMC as well. And then we basically did the beginning of the Meristem program and worked our way through Meristem with our early, Meristem with the early plus the post, or the early plus the fungicide, and then the double rate on the backside of it. So you could definitely see as we worked our way across the plot that the weights got heavier, or vice versa when we were working from full backwards. The things slowly started stepping their way down, which is what we would have predicted to happen anyway. I was actually running the combine when we were doing the Xyway, and I was hollering at Dylan over the radio. I said, you could see it to the row where it's late in season. We've had 5 or 6 really windy days. We've had 3 inches of rain over the past 2 weeks. The corn crop is slowly degrading, and it's time to get these crops out. And the fact that you got a product that helps you stand for $19 to $20 an acre, you put it on with your planter. It doesn't take any extra time, just a little bit of equipment. Makes a lot of sense.
You'd be going through the corn, the leaves and the stalk would just blow up like confetti when you're going through. So it was definitely time to get it out because it was starting to go down in spots. But you could really tell when we jumped from no fungicide to fungicide, we had a few more days or wind events that we could handle, which we don't want. But
well, we'll be looking forward to seeing that data summarized in the upcoming Cup of Joe episode.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
I know we've talked about it ad nauseum, but for those viewers that aren't familiar, I mean, we're basically, our corn on most acres right now looks like it is nearing December style corn.
Yep.
I mean, we have just advanced so far ahead. So to hear things that have standability improvements and leaves still on is not normal right now, because we are getting some phone calls of some stuff that's going down, and we saw it a month and a half ago, and I know we've talked about it on Cup of Joe. So it's going to be really impressive to see those results as they translate, because stock quality just in general doesn't matter, has been a very hot topic, I guess, in the local area. So improvement of stand, especially for guys that don't have dryers or capability of drying bins and storage, that's going to be pretty good conversations that happen over November, December here.
For sure.
The other thing too, Friday, the F.I.R.S.T trials published their summary data for Northern Illinois, and you want to make any comments about how we did in that one?
If I remember correctly, we were second when they put all their trial locations together. We had a second place finish there, and we were in the statistically significant higher yield portion, which is typically in bold, and we can throw that picture up so that you can see that with the 2506 C-30. So from an early test, we performed extremely well all across the Northern Illinois locations. And there, I think if I remember correctly, there's like 5 of them, 5 individual locations. That's replicated first trial data. And then if you go into the fuller season, the 2512 had a mid to upper finish in there as well. We weren't in the statistically significant version, but we played very well with both those hybrids in Northern Illinois.
Well, it's good to see the 106 raise its head and know that we got a good, solid early hybrid for northern areas.
Yeah, and talking with a few of our sales managers at the end of last week, the 2506, the 2408, the 2411, the 2512 are all doing what they're supposed to do in our northern latitudes. So when I talk to those guys, they're extremely happy with how things have performed so far this year.
Plant the package, right? Plant the package. Okay, well, as you know, Halloween's not too far away, so excited to get everybody excited about Halloween, okay? So what do you get when you put a spider on an ear of corn? What do you get when you put a spider on an ear of corn? A cobweb. You knew that. What do you call a fat pumpkin? What do you call a fat pumpkin? Plumpkin, okay? They're going to get better.
Let's hope so.
Oh, let's hope so. Why don't mummies take time off? Why don't mummies take time off? They are afraid to unwind. They're afraid to unwind. Why are vampires bad at art? You ever wonder why vampires are bad at art? I'm sure it keeps you awake at night. They are only able to draw blood. Okay? Now,
they're getting better.
Okay. Have you ever seen, you've been around identical twins, sometimes very hard to tell them apart. Okay. What's the problem with twin witches? What's the problem with twin witches? You never know which witch is which. Okay. Now the last one, this one here is, there's always some adult when the kids come up to the door and say trick or treat, and they'll go, give me the trick, I want a trick, I'll give you a treat. Okay, here's what you tell your kids. You tell them to say, knock knock.
Who's there?
Philip.
Philip who?
Fill up my bag with candy. So there you go. Anyhow.
Trick.
Yeah. Thanks for watching this week. We hope harvest is going well with you. We hope your family is healthy and safe. We'll see you next week.